All right, hello again. My name is Matthew and this is Conscious Recovery. And I've been doing a number of videos recently on cognitive distortions. These are unhelpful thought patterns that create unnecessary stress and problems in your life. And if you can get rid of them, you can reduce the amount of stress you have and then have a better life. My recovery model is all about addition, not subtraction. You don't just remove the substance and magically get better. You have to add in skills and habits and disciplines that make your life better to the point where you don't need alcohol or drugs anymore. That's what I think. That's what's worked for me. So that's what I do. All right, the last and final cognitive distortion that I'm going to discuss, I hope I haven't missed any, but I've talked about the ones that are important to me. Last one is emotional reasoning. This one is big for me personally, because when I got better from my addiction, at first I thought I was, conquering addiction, drugs and alcohol. That was my problem, right? No, I quickly found that I had depression and anxiety that remained even after the drugs and alcohol were long gone. And so then I realized my recovery needed to focus on mental health so that I could heal from that. And then as I started to learn about my mental health issues and heal from them, I started learning about trauma, and I realized trauma was the big piece that was underneath everything. Trauma can lead a person to have these mental health issues, depression, anxiety, and definitely causes you to use more cognitive distortions because it leaves you with bad ideas. And so understanding these cognitive distortions can help you to undo the effects of trauma that you're still living your life by. It won't heal what happened in the past, but you can stop letting the past dictate the rules of today. And that's what emotional reasoning is all about. Emotional reasoning states that if you feel something, that feeling, that emotion, dictates the truth of your reality. Let's take anxiety for a very easy example. I've been hiking. I'm hiking right now. I used to live in a mountain resort town in the Rockies in Canada, and I've run into bears all the time. One summer, like 50 plus bears that I encountered well on the trail. Okay. And during those encounters, I felt appropriate fear, but I didn't feel like intense anxiety. I was alert and I was nervous and my heart rate was going and all that, but I wasn't like terrified to confront the situation. And then I would go back to my job at the resort and my boss would be mad at me because I was a drunk. So he had every right to be mad at me. But the idea of my boss being mad at me, I would have panic attacks every day going to work. Every single day going to work, I would have anxiety, I would have panic attacks. And then once those panic attacks subsided, then I could get to work. It used to be a good hour plus routine I had in the morning where I'd wake up extra early for work just so I could have my panic attack and then continue on to do what I needed to do in my job for that day. Now, let's think about that anxiety for a second and compare it to the bear. Emotional reasoning tells us that our feelings dictate our reality. Now, where should I really have been more afraid? With the bear or with my boss? Obviously the bear. That's the actual danger. The boss being upset with me, that's a problem. Yeah, it's a fixable problem. But my emotions told me that was the terrifying thing to confront. And unfortunately, I let my emotions convince me that was the truth of my reality. Emotions are helpful. They're informative. I'm not suggesting you get rid of them, but I am suggesting that there's certain feelings that you have that you need to learn to ignore. When somebody has depression and feel like they're worthless and they should end everything, we don't tell them that they're right. Okay? You have to learn to recognize those are unhelpful, diseased thoughts and feelings, and you need to learn to ignore them. Anxiety is not your true north compass. It's not the guide that you should be listening to. So what do? Well, you need to learn to balance your emotions with your intellect. You use questions and reasoning to ask yourself about real, rational, legitimate danger. And you need to find out if the emotional reaction you're having matches the situation appropriately. Now, this might be hard to do, especially if you're in some very dark places and you have a lot of negative habits that you've been using for years. So this is the kind of thing it might be good to reach out for help and have somebody else that you trust and will actually listen to help you to find the middle ground. Now, with anxiety, I always say try to calm the body first. Your mind is not going to be very helpful as long as you are in a survival state. So find good somatic grounding exercises. That's ways to calm the body. Find those, get calm, get centered. And when you are at peace, sit down and get to work on how to balance these emotions with your intellect. I will make more videos on this. If there's interest, please let me know if there's any questions, and we can go a little further into what's worked for me personally. But I can tell you this, 10 years in, quitting my addiction did not make my life any easier. I still had all the same problems that I had in the beginning. But even though my life didn't get easier, in my recovery, I got stronger. And then I've been able to handle these problems. And I don't have anxiety anymore. I don't have depression anymore. And I have a life worth living now that I would never think about quitting. You can get better. You can take the broken parts of your mind and replace them with better, more helpful, and more hopeful ideas. All right. I know it's a long video. Hope it helps.